Tonight on Nova Legends podcast, I have Darius and Chris Bivins. Darius is a top 60 prospect for 2026. I call that junior, but we don't say that anymore. Darius just recently transferred from Alexandria City to O'Connell to do his high school. He's got offers from all over the place. Chris, I'm just meeting Chris for the first time. I think, even though I think we've been introduced before at games. Chris is, I believe, from San Antonio, went to the University of Texas. Ball
Correct.
player, also a coach as well. But guys, thanks for doing this. Great to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you as well.
Nice to meet you as well.
Yeah. Well, let me give a little bit more on Chris. I'm sorry, on Darius. Also, eventually on Chris as well. So Darius burst on the scene, at least to my knowledge, at Alexandria City, and that he was all of a sudden out of nowhere. He was offered by Illinois his freshman year. That just doesn't happen a lot on the public school side. And that's when, people really start talking about him. And then since then, I guess he's got probably, I think, more than 20 offers. I wore my UVA thing just in case you wanted my input, but I know Stanford, Illinois, Georgetown, there's been most of the big programs in the country I know are interested in you. Lately, great news, you guys are doing a docu-series with De La Villa called The Crossover. Those guys, people might remember them from the back-to-back from the Hayfield. They worked with Jackson Reed last year, and those guys just do incredible work. That's going to be exciting. There's a blurb already up on at least on my Facebook group, but I've seen some all over the place. Guys, I get most of the information right?
Yep.
Yes,
Yeah. Well, great. Well, Darius, I wanted to start a little bit with the transparency of recruiting. When I played back in the Stone Age, and I played against T.C. Williams, I was class of '84 at Robinson. Top players played AAU. They went to 5-star camps. Only the top players for AAU. There wasn't an AAU program for everybody when I played. But there wasn't such transparency. Now, like I said, I read on some list you were number 60 for the class of 2026. But you guys know where you stand at all moments, and they call you a 4-star recruit. That wasn't a thing when I was a kid. You'd play your basketball. You knew the other stars locally, but we didn't have the kind of the transparency of knowing what everyone else was doing across the country. Do you guys think that's a good thing? Like the fact that you know exactly where you stand at this moment, is that inspirational to you? Do you like that? Or is it sometimes is it too much information going out there, and is it better just to be able to go play your basketball and kind of let the chips fall where they may?
Honestly, I would say I would like it better where I didn't know where I stood every second of the day, being reminded on social media. Like obviously I really appreciate the love everyone shows, but sometimes I kind of just want to go out there and have fun. Even I kind of want to go back to when I was a little kid when there was no rankings and there was no politics involved in basketball. It was just go out there, play your game and have fun. And that's what I try to do now. I don't really try to let none of the rankings or the offers get into my head. I just want to go out there, have fun, because that's how I really started playing. I just started having fun with it, and I found a passion for basketball. So
Exactly, Chris, you feel the same. What do you feel about all this spotlight that all the kids have at a very early stage in their development?
Yeah, I think it can be a gift and a curse at times. I guess so. Just to kind of touch base on the Illinois offer. So what happened was I tried to take an old school approach to Darius's recruitment because he was so young and he did start getting offers his freshman year. He got I believe it was 11 D1 offers his freshman year, but we chose not to share them with social media. We tried to prevent just all the pressures and stuff that comes with that kind of thing. We were definitely, obviously humble and happy to receive those offers, but I chose not to post them. And what happened is the Illinois offer got leaked on one of their, I think it was one of their boards or their message boards or something. So it got out, and it kind of just I think people were just kind of confused and like, oh, well, where is this offer coming from? But yeah, it can be hard at times, and I think especially for the kids who really love the game, um, it kind of gets to the point where wherever they go, you know, you got kids trying to, you know, play one on one against them or trying to prove a point to them as opposed to just playing good basketball sometimes.
Exactly. Well, guys, how necessary is the social media? How necessary is the blessed to be offered by Illinois? You know, all the things that players find themselves doing now. Do you have to be a social media star, or can you put your head down and just play basketball? I have the feeling that it's here to stay, and this is the game that we have to play.
Definitely. I feel like I feel like social media plays like a huge role in it nowadays. Like everyone can like find out a lot about a person based on their social media. But I feel like a lot of people who are successful, like it was like a old story. My dad used to tell me like Colin Sexton, he didn't have Instagram in high school. Like no one really knew who he was like until he was going into his senior year. And as you can see, he's been very successful. So like I try to stay off social media as much as I can. Obviously I have to go on it sometimes, but I feel like if you really just put your head down and work and like limit your time on social media, I feel like everything will fall into its place for sure.
Yeah, as long as you have the game on the court, it's going to all come together. Dad, do you agree with that?
You know, we tried to take a different approach to social media. You get into the situation where people will write some things about your son, and then if you don't post it, they feel some type of way. But sometimes when you do post it, people think it's coming from you. So, for instance, you know, someone might say, "Oh, this is the best guard in 2026," and you know, by nature, you're going to repost that, but that's not necessarily coming from the family or the kid. But sometimes it gets lost in translation. So I think you can definitely make it without social media. Like I said, Darius didn't post any of his offers for a year, actually like a year and a half, and all his social media presence was just friends that he had throughout moving throughout his childhood. And so it wasn't really like a basketball thing that he was trying to do or trying to, you know, promote himself. It just kind of grew organically. And I think you could do it a certain way where you're, you know, not necessarily offending people and not trying to make your son a target, but you know, it comes with the territory as well.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is tied up to NIL now. So about 3 or 4 years ago, I interviewed two soccer players. So one of them was the Gatorade Player of the Year from Virginia, Shay Montgomery, and the other one her name was Shay O'Rourke. They're at University of South Carolina. Uh, two beautiful, talented, charismatic women that were amazing.
Mhm.
And one of them, like Shay Montgomery, didn't do the social media thing and just focus on her soccer. Other one, Shay O'Rourke, she really embraced the social media. She was posting stuff, and she got like 200,000 or whatever followers. Ridiculous. Shay Montgomery really didn't go that route. She just was a student and she played her soccer. But the challenge is there's financial value now
Yeah,
on this. So you almost, if you don't play the game, you're almost you're not really taking advantage of an opportunity that's available to you. So I felt like one of them felt the pressure to really play along. The other one didn't.
yeah.
Both of them are doing great. They're having great careers, but it's just interesting how the financial value of the player changes by how much attention they chose to put on the social media.
Correct.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. So, well, so Chris, I wanted to ask you, being a dad and having a kid with so much ability. When I was a kid, your father, if like Hubert Davis grew up in the area, and my dad and his dad were friends, and obviously Hubert Senior taught Hubert how to play basketball, and his uncle Walter Davis, the Greyhound, was influential as well. But generally, players learn how to play basketball on their own, and they go to the pickups and the cream would rise to the crop. Your parent may help you drive you to AAU practice if you're good enough, or maybe pick a school. There was limited amount of private school options when I played, but the player was responsible for his own development. Parents didn't have that big a role in it back then.
Yeah.
And I know it changed, Chris, when you played, and now it's completely different. Chris, if you were just a parent and sat back and didn't do anything, where would Darius be today? I actually think a parent has to be heavily involved, has to be. On the De La Villa blurb that came out, I know that you taught Darius how to play basketball, but it's not. It's not only that nowadays. You're making these big decisions about the game and development. You know, one-on-one trainers. You know, which AAU, which program. There are so many decision points now. Is it possible for a player of Darius's stature not to have parents? And I'm sure your beautiful wife is involved as well. But is it possible for parents not to be involved today?
I think if it's very, very rare, but I think if you can find a really good village, then it's possible. But yeah, I mean, every parent goes through these phases where, you know, they're a little overbearing. And, you know, I'm first to admit, like in the earlier years of Darius's career, I was, you know, I was probably over the top.
Me too.
Yeah, you know, and then you kind of like, you know, you look back and you're like, after a while, I just realized he really loved the game. And it was like, what am I doing to either help that and grow that or harm that? And then that's when I really started to be choosy about picking his village, picking his trainers, picking guys that he, you know, he hangs out with daily. Luckily, I think when you're a kid that trains and plays, you end up attracting those kind of kids and those kind of friends. So we've been really blessed to be around really good people since we moved to the DMV. But yeah, I mean, I think I help him. And what I really tried to do was raise him in a way where he would make those decisions on his own. Um, Make sure that he's, you know, got a good head on his shoulders, make sure he stays humble. All those things matter, whether or not it's reciprocated. And luckily, Darius has done a really good job of making his own decisions. And I'm just supporting him at this point. I guide him, I try to lead him in the right direction, but he's at the age now where he's got to make his decisions. Even, you know, switching to private, I told him what I thought, but he made his own decisions. And I raised him that way, and I wanted to continue. And I'll be there, you know, if he makes a decision that ain't in his best interest, I'll try to guide him. But, you know, you got to just be there, but you also don't want to be overbearing. And I think, you know, every situation is different. Every kid is different, but for me, Darius is pretty independent. You know, he goes to the gym by himself. He's been training by himself, and he works really hard. So I don't have to do much. Just help here, be there, be supportive, that kind of thing.
Darius, is what your dad tells us. Is he telling us the truth? Is your dad, is he being humble here? Could you, are you making most of these decisions yourself, or could a player of his stature do it without a strong influence of two great parents like you have?
No, definitely. I feel like he's helped me like a lot throughout like this whole process, like just like telling me like certain things that I needed to hear at certain moments. Just like keep me humble, like telling me not to lose my head through all this stuff. But definitely like what he said, he's just like giving me his advice in certain like situations. But he is telling the truth where he's like everything, like every situation that comes up, he's like, it's up to you, man. Like it's your basketball career. Like I'll give you my advice, but um I think it's your decision. So like even when I was picking to go to O'Connell, my dad told me is like I had other options. He gave me his advice. He was like, whatever you choose, I'm gonna be there to support you. So I chose to go to O'Connell. It was some stipulations around that I decided to do that. But yeah, what he was saying is definitely true. He helps me get to workouts and stuff here and there, but most of the time I'm in the gym by myself. I take the bus or the metro. So, but without him, I wouldn't be anything. So, gotta give thanks to him for sure.
I'm sure he loves hearing that, and I'm sure um, that's true. And you also feel as you get older, your parents have provided you the base to make decisions for yourself. So probably you need to lean on him a little bit less. So the decision to go to O'Connell would have been much tougher before your freshman year. As you've gotten older and you feel more confident in what you're doing, you probably, you could probably use your own judgment a little bit more than you would probably 2 years ago.
Yes, sir. Definitely, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. So what, Chris? When did you guys move into the DC area?
So we moved here, Darius' sixth grade year. So I believe it was 2019 summer.
Okay.
And we had moved from, so we're originally from Texas. We had lived in Phoenix, Tucson, LA, and Northern California. And we had moved back to LA. And then oddly enough, Darius's Los Angeles team played in nationals that summer. And his very last tournament with his California team, we played pretty much, I think, every team from the DMV in nationals in Florida.
Wow. That's
So
cool.
we got a really good preview of what, DMV basketball was like, and we were able to kind of make a sound decision on where he would play when we got down here. And we literally drove across the country the next month, and we had everything in place. We knew the team we were going to play for, and then things just went up from there.
Why did you guys end up moving to the DC area?
So Darius's mom is active duty military.
Okay.
And so, yeah, she was stationed in LA, and then she got stationed at the Pentagon.
Okay. Yeah. So Darius, another reason Darius needs to behave himself at home when you have a mother in the service. So so I mentioned earlier that I went to Robinson, and I was class of '84, and I can't overstate how much of icons athletes who played for TC Williams were when I was a kid. There wasn't that many black families in the western part of the county, and most of the black families, students, athletes are TC Williams, but there were some at like Mount Vernon, West Potomac, Hayfield, Hayfield, Wakefield, and so. But in the western part of the county, it was mostly white. When I was there, my family was the first African American family in Lake Braddock in the whole subdivision. But we really looked up to the TC Williams program. I think all of us were kind of closet TC Williams fans when we weren't playing them.
Yeah.
And when I played against those guys, I played against Glenn Williams, who's in the Hall of Fame. He's a Hall of Famer at Holy Cross, football and basketball, quarterback of the national championship team, incredible point guard. I played against Tyrone Shaw, had a great career at University of West Virginia, played overseas. They call him the Big E. These players were icons in the city. It wasn't just a TC Williams thing. Athletes and TC Williams were icons in the whole city. Did you guys have any sense of the history of Alexandria City sports when you guys went there and were playing there? Is that something that kids talk about today, or is that history in some regard been lost over time?
I would say it's actually like really been lost. Like our coaches and athletic director like reminded us a couple of times, but not a lot of the kids like that actually went to Alexandria City really knew like the history. Like even like I would like during practice and stuff and games, I would just look up and like look at all the banners and stuff. I was like, really, this is like really crazy, like how much success they had at that time. So I think it's definitely like a lost thing for sure.
Yeah, it's really too bad. Chris, how about you? I'm sure you saw the movie. Remember the Titans? So you know a
Yeah.
little bit about it. But what about you? Did you know much about TC Williams when you guys moved in?
Not originally, but luckily we moved into an area that was, like, I guess, historically black. So we were on a street that, had the Boys and Girls Club, and we had neighbors that knew, and then they started explaining the history. And then once I obviously knew about a couple basketball players that had came through there that, were really successful in college and did amazing things after school, and the rich history of sports there. But I really got I really learned about the history from neighbors and friends and guys who used to play at TC. And then Darius got lucky enough to have a guy that went to TC that was one of his trainers. He ended up finishing at I want to say St. Stephen's, and then in New Jersey. He played at DePaul, and he was telling them about the history. And then when Darius started getting better and playing a lot more, people would come around and say, hey, there was a point guard that played here, guy that played at Cincinnati, this guy, do you know the history? And
Michael Horton. Yeah,
Michael Horton. And we hear about those things, and and it definitely helped that they did have a rich basketball history, and that's why it was an easy decision for us to to go to public school for those first 2 years, and it was a no-brainer for us. So we really enjoyed TC.
I remember the first time I played in the Garden. And the Garden was what they call the TC's old home court, now Alexandria City. It was a packed house. I was real short when I was in high school. I grew later. and the people in the crowd would just talk so much trash.
Oh yeah, no,
You know,
that hasn't changed.
oh man, they talk so much. But I felt like I was there. It was almost like an actor who was on Broadway or in a movie. When I was in the garden playing, I was like, man, it was like surreal because when I was a kid, I grew up watching games there and stuff, and you really can't. It's kind of sad, and it's not just Alexandria City now, and it's all the Northern Virginia high schools, the rich history that we had, and how important all the games meant, you know, and what a huge stage was. So look, you go to Alexandria City and you play public, and obviously by the number of offers you had your first year, you know, you could have gone to private school right away. Looking back, what do you guys think about the decision to play public school at first at Alexandria City? Now you have an amazing district. League is just tough. I mean, there's a lot of Division One, lots of Division Three players there. I mean, there are Division One and lots of Division Three players there. I mean, great competition there, great coaching in that conference. You could have probably gone to a Connell, a Paul VI, or any WCAC school. If not start varsity, you would have, you know, played somewhere at least on a very competitive JV team. What do you think about the decision to go to Alexandria City and play a couple years of public school ball instead of doing what Darren Harris did at Paul VI and, you know, going there right away, even though your dad coaches, and playing private right away?
I would say it really came down to like the team we had. I think I had like a bond like with all my teammates, Kai Robinson,
Oh yeah.
Tico Bostic, all of them. Like we was really close. So it came down to that. Like when I was on the court with them, like it was really fun. And then we had a really good coaching staff, like Coach Sally, Coach Warren, Coach Mike. Coach Warren was like a former pro coach in China. You know, Coach Sally was a legend at West Virginia. And then Coach Mike did his high school and college career. He did his thing. So I think it was just like talking to my dad, it was just like a good decision. I knew like we kind of had like a preseason meeting. They were like, you know, the ball's gonna be in your hands. So I think it was good for my development to, you know, play through mistakes, like really learn how to play the point guard position, have to score at times. So I think it was a good learning experience for me for sure. And not to mention like we had a good schedule, you know, playing two top 25 nationally ranked teams in John Marshall and Jackson Reed. So and then also Bishop Ireton. So it was definitely a good experience. And I think I did make the right decision when I decided to, you know, stay at Alexandria City.
Yeah. Chris, you agree with that or?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think there's a lot of misinformation for parents. I didn't necessarily do a lot of research, but I definitely watched a lot of basketball when Darius was in middle school when we first got out here. And you know, I'm from Texas. There is no private schools in Texas. You just go to the
Oh, is
public
that
school
right?
that you're zoned for. Yeah. So this private school stuff was new to me, and I was like, well, you know, originally I said he's going private, and everyone, you know, him being on the AAU circuit in middle school, everyone was like, "You're going what? You're going public? Like what?" And I was like, I ended up just sticking to my guns, and I knew that was a good decision. I watched the local ball. You got, you know, tradition programs, West Potomac, Hayfield, um, really good programs around the area. And I said, like, he's going to go somewhere where he's going to play, and he's going to be on varsity. He's going to be getting that experience. So, you know, I didn't necessarily even say it was a 2-year plan. I just said, like, you're going to somewhere that has really good coaches, has a really good staff, they have a really good school, great gym, great facility, good students, great academics, and it was an easy choice for us. So, yeah, I think after the first year, on the AAU circuit, his freshman year, it got a little crazy because it was WCAC schools, but it was also like the national prep schools, Mount Verd, IMG, all those schools started knocking at the door, and then it really got crazy this past summer. But I mean, TC was amazing for Darius, and me. Like, and I know that's the politically correct thing to say but no, they've literally treated us like family. We love those guys. Like nothing's changed. Darius still goes to TC and works out. He's there all the time. We still stay in the same area. We still got the same support. They've treated us nothing less than amazing. So still really close with Ty Sally, James Parker, Felix Tramiel. All those guys are still like family to us, and so that's never going to change.
So when folks ask for your advice about what they should do, young prospects, If you have the right program, it may make sense to stay home in your public school, even if you eventually outgrow it. And I know Alexandria City is great, but if you're a 4-star recruit, there is a chance you may want to have another experience. But it still may make sense to start out at your public school.
Yeah, I was very confused why more people don't do it. And I'm not saying do it to maybe transfer to a bigger school. I just I'm a big proponent of playing. That's one thing that I've always told Darius is you're not going to get experience not being on the court.
Yeah.
And when we were coming up, we had to go sit at the park and we had to wait sometimes. And when we were younger and wait for the older guys to finish, and maybe they had 9 and they just needed 1, and we might go sit for 4 hours and play one game. It's the best day of our life. So, I always wanted Darius to be on the court. And sometimes I do see parents making these decisions, and it's like, you're going to go sit the bench on JV, or you're going to maybe play on JV, where you can be on a public school varsity and getting quality minutes and playing really good teams. And not for nothing, some of the public schools, Hayfield and all, they get with the WCAC teams, not necessarily like the top teams, but I know Hayfield took some teams to the wire. They beat some really solid teams. We almost beat Jackson Reed last year. We lost to John Marshall in a close game. So yeah, I think there's some misinformation there, or maybe jumping the gun. But I think every kid should start at their public school. Given situations like Darren Harris, where he's really good and he can get to PVI and play. But there's some situations where maybe a public school is a better choice.
Yeah. No, Darius, it must have given you a lot of pride, made you feel great when you're playing John Marshall. And I understand you guys had some injuries going into that game, but I heard you guys gave them all they could handle in the first half. I missed the game, but it must give you a lot of pride to take your boys. And I think Kai had already graduated. Kai had already graduated that year, right? Or was he there last against John Marshall?
He was there with us.
He
It was
there?
his
Okay.
Brother that graduated the year before.
Oh, his brother.
Colin
That's right.
Robinson.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
But anyway, it still must have given you a lot of pride to play against those Jackson Reed and John Marshall with your boys.
definitely, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So, look, you talked a little bit about Coach Sally, another guy I haven't met. What is his coaching style? What are some of the things you learned from Coach Sally and the rest of the AC staff?
I'll say, well, his style, with the team we had last year, he really just let us go out there and play. Obviously we had some quick plays that we could run if we didn't have anything open, but he really went out there and let us play. So I think it was good for us. Coach Warren, great assistant. He was really good on the player development side. In practice, he would have us do some good drills, get us better and stuff. Same with Coach Mike, both really good assistant coaches. So I think all 3 of them went together well. So with those 3, we had a really good coaching staff. And then Coach Sally, he was a player's coach. He was kind of during timeouts and stuff. He was like, "What do you guys see?" Asking us what we want to run. With the game on the line against Jackson Reed, he kind of asked us "What do you guys want to run?" I'm not going to call something something that I haven't seen. So he just asked us, and then we came up with a play call. Got a great shot, but he's really a player's coach, and in my opinion, a really good coach.
Yeah. Well, Darius, are you going to have some regrets? I know you are hurt. You're seriously hurt in this year's postseason and really couldn't give your best. I think it was either your elbow or your leg, and you really couldn't. You played, you tried your best, but everyone knew that you really couldn't play your game. Otherwise, I think you guys would have been probably a big threat to you were probably South Lakes' biggest threat last year. Are you going to have some regrets with the injuries or the fact that you didn't win it, or when you move on and you go to O'Connell, you think you'll be able to do it without regret?
I'm definitely gonna have some regret. Even watching the video of when I got hurt, it was my wrist. I fractured my wrist.
Oh, yeah.
It was if I would just land it right and not try to break my fall with my wrist, I would have been fine. But definitely have some regret because I feel that group was the one. I think we had all the pieces. So I'm definitely in 2 months after the season, I was really still thinking about it. I wish we could have done it, and it would have been a great moment for all of us. So I'm definitely gonna have some regret, and I still do. I still think about it till this day.
Yeah, your dad will tell you that we still regret games we didn't win, and plays we didn't make in high school. We never those
Absolutely.
things never lead. How about you, Chris? Do you, when you look back on the fact that he's not going to be in those incredible rivalries in the Patriot and beyond, are you going to miss those days watching them play against those guys?
Yeah, absolutely, man. It you know, it's bittersweet because you really grow close with a lot of people. You know, not just at TC, like we really gained a really cool village. Like I said, I've met Carlos on a whim. You know, we played against him even though he was the one who put us out these last 2 years. But you know, really good dude, really great coach and really supportive. You know, there's a competitive environment where we all want to win, you know, when we're on the court, but there's also just that village mentality where a lot of people support Darius, they support us, they show us love, and that comes from all the schools, you know what I mean? There's not a school in the Patriot that doesn't support us behind closed doors or support us in public. And of course, when we get on the court, it's going to be competitive. But Darius has friends at every school. We got a lot of families that we're really cool with that we hang out with, and they're not all from TC. So it's very bittersweet, man. And we're gonna miss it a lot. I'm gonna miss that environment. Sometimes, I mean, at West Potomac, I sat on the other side because Darius played county ball with the kids from West Potomac that you know are his rivals, but I sat on the other side because it was like those guys are like family to us. So you know they spend the night all the time, they hang out all the time, and it's gonna be sad, you know, not to be in that environment anymore. So yeah, it's gonna be rough. And I know Darius regrets breaking his fall and not being able to finish out the season. Me and Sally talk about it all the time. So yeah.
Yeah, when I went to some of the Madison games this year, Miles Franklin would come to watch the games, and you know he's where did Miles go again, guys? I forgot the school he goes to up in Maryland.
St. Andrews.
Yes, yeah, yes, St. Andrews.
Yeah.
But I can still see when he's watching his brother play
Mhm.
last year that I knew he wanted to be out there because I knew he felt like he had some unfinished business, especially with South Lakes. Well, let's talk about the decision that you had to make to go to O'Connell. When did you guys decide, and when did Darius decide he is going to transfer? I had talked to Chris briefly online, and that was the first time we communicated. And you told me there was a chance that he was going to move. And you mentioned IMG earlier. I knew some out of state programs were in the mix as well.
Mhm.
I know Dad's got to be thrilled that you're in town. It's easier to get to your games. But talk about the decision to go to O'Connell. Why did you choose to go to O'Connell, and how difficult the decision must, even though it was time. No, I haven't talked to anyone who said, "I can't believe Darius is transferring." Everyone's like, "Well, we're glad we had him for 2 years." But talk a little bit about the decision to go and kind of the decision points you had to make.
Definitely. So, like right after the season ended, I say like 2 weeks later, we kind of had like end of the season meetings with like the coaches and stuff. So, I was talking to Coach Sally, and he kind of just told me he was like, if you want to stay, we have open arms, but my advice to you is go somewhere where you're going to be challenged every day in practice, where you're playing a national schedule, and where you're going to be pushed. So, at that point, the season had just ended, so I was like, man, I'm staying at TC. I'm gonna get this state championship. Like I was motivated to stay there and get it done. But after talking to Coach Sally, he kind of like just told me like to do what's best for me. So at that point, I think that was early March. So I tried not to think about it too much. Going into AAU and stuff. But when AAU started, kind of got crazy. Like AZ Compass, Montverde, IMG, and then like a lot of other schools, Sunrise Christian, were reaching out to my dad and me. So it was kind of stressful a little bit. Like I didn't really know what I was gonna do. PVI, and O'Connell obviously reached out. But I think it was like late May, right after the AAU live period. I kind of just talked to my dad and talked to my AAU coach and was just like asked for their advice, and then I made a decision around that time, like right before June began. And that was to go to O'Connell. It was just I felt like I had a good relationship with Coach Wooten. It would be a good fit. And obviously it's only about 15, 20 minutes away from my house, so that makes things like really easy. And then also another thing that played a huge role was I was also able to bring Chris and Justin with me, and those are like my best friends. So being able to play with them, which I've always wanted to, played a big role in that. So I think all that all of that just like helped me make the decision to go to O'Connell, and I think I made the right decision. So
Yeah. Chris and Justin are the West Potomac players. Your dad referred to their parents earlier today. Is that right?
yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah. Yeah. So Chris, you must have been very proud of the way Darius handled the decision. Very thankful for the mature way the TC coach, the Alexandria City coaches, dealt with your son and didn't put any undue pressure. They didn't play the loyalty card to get him to stay. But how did you feel about the way the decision was made?
Yeah, I thought it was made the right way. Like I said, we included TC. I know people are like, oh man, he's just gonna be politically correct. Like I said, those guys are like family, and we included them in the decision. I lean on them for advice. Like I said, it's bittersweet. We're gonna go watch TC games this year and support them. We want to watch them this summer. It's all love, and they help me, kind of guide Darius in the right direction. And yeah, like like Darius said, it did get out of control. There was a point, I think around, it was actually the time that PVI was playing in Chipotle Nationals.
Mm.
That Saturday, uh the 8 teams that were at Chipotle Nationals all called me to recruit Darius, and it was like back to back to back. And I kind of just looked at it. I was sitting next to one of my friends who used to play at Hayfield, oddly enough, and he was kind of like, "Man, this is out of control." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't really know, what we're gonna do and how to navigate it all." But after a while, Darius just said he wanted to stay home, so that made the decision a lot easier. So we were able to narrow it down to some options, and then it just came down to the logistics of things, and then it just so happened that while Joe was recruiting Darius, he saw Justin, and they play on the same AAU team. They're in the same AAU program. Justin and Chris play 16U, and Darius was playing up at 17U, and they were all in the gym one day, and he literally he looked at those two and was like, "Who are those kids?" And he started his own recruiting process with them, and then yeah, it all kind of came together in June, and so really cool with both their parents, and like they played county ball since 6th grade. That was Darius's first team when we got here. So yeah, I was proud of Darius. I was proud of the way he handled it. He was very mature about it, and I'm not just saying that. He called every coach that recruited him and explained his decision, even though it was rough. It was hard because he developed relationships with these guys. We had a really good relationship with Coach Farello, and we were real close with him. And it was a tough decision. Darius had to talk to him. I had to talk to him, and we're still cool to this day. Same situation as TC, and it just came down to doing what's best for him, and logistically what works for us. So we're proud of the decision. I'm glad that Coach Joe built a relationship with him, and we're looking forward to working things out in O'Connell.
Yeah. Oh, you got a great program, and you just can't put a price on being 15 minutes from home instead of going all the way out to Loudoun County or in DC or in PG County like DeMatha every day. As good as all those programs are, and I'm sure you do well wherever you went. A great program close to home. It's really hard. It's really hard to compete. So what do you guys think about Catholic school? I don't know if this is your first experience going to Catholic school. I never went to private. My kids didn't either. How do you guys feel about going to Catholic schools? And is this the first time?
It is. It's a little different. I would say like we have mass once a month. So we actually just had our first mass Friday. So I'm still like getting used to like the schedule and stuff. They pray every like before every class. So all that type of stuff. And then like a lot of the students memorize like the prayers. So I'm still trying to do that, like memorize all the prayers, get all the schedule and stuff down. But it's definitely been like an adjustment. But I would say I'm adjusting pretty well. We just finished our second week of school, so looking forward to the third week starting tomorrow. But I think I'm just adjusting well for sure.
As someone who married a Catholic, I still haven't learned all the prayers. And you go places, everyone knows what's going on, and I still don't know what to say. I just kind of cross a little bit and try. Yeah,
Definitely.
try to act like I know what's going on. Daddy, you must feel good about your son being, even if I'm not sure, I don't believe you guys are Catholic, but even if you're not Catholic, do you enjoy the idea of your son being in a school with that kind of structure? Is that something that's important to you?
Yeah, absolutely. And Darius grew up Catholic
Oh,
through his mother's side. Yeah,
okay,
so he
yeah.
actually was Catholic, and it worked out. I think it is great. It's great structure. It's an amazing education. Yeah, I think it does prepare you for the academic side of college. Darius was a 4.0 student. He's never gotten a B.
Wow.
So that's something I was proud of. And he's going to be challenged a little more academically here and take some AP classes. So, yeah, it was a step up academically, and it's something that I think will be benefit him in the long run.
Yeah, exactly. Well, one thing you guys got to be more excited about, Darius, is that you're going to be facing top players on a nightly basis. You know, at least once a week, you're going to face players that are also ranked, nationally ranked players. You're gonna be at iconic gyms throughout the area. It's got to be really exciting to know that you're gonna be constantly facing players on a Division I level as well.
For sure. Definitely looking forward to it. Like you said, facing everyone every night. Like Gonzaga, PVI, DeMatha, all those type schools. You know, the amazing players they have. Even like just a couple weeks ago, I found out our first game in October at the Border League, and I think it's at Bishop Gorman. We're gonna be playing Sierra Canyon on ESPN. So
Wow.
that's a great way to start off the season. See where we are. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. Can't wait.
Yeah, you might forget all about that state championship you never got a chance to win. Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. O'Connell does play for the private state championship, and there's Blue Ridge and there's some other good schools um, that you face as well. So guys, when you think about the O'Connell program, when you're a player on Darius's level, um, I heard on the De La Via video you referred to Coach Doug. Um, how important is AAU as opposed to high school? Now, my son was a soccer player, and so I didn't know anything about soccer, but he was into it, and that's all we did, and that was my life for many years. That's why I didn't go to the gym for a while, because I was on the soccer field. But in soccer, your club program is always bigger than your high school program. High school is more for fun, and it's great. It's important. Um, the club is for show, and the club is for dough, and the high school is for show. But you got to take care of that club. And I think basketball is probably the same. But when you're in a program like O'Connell, DeMatha, Paul the Six, how does high school relate to your club career, your club commitments?
I think they're both very important. I'd say AAUs are like a little more like important just because they have designated live periods where college coaches like their job like is to come see you. As a like where high school is like there's not really designated live periods. Obviously, college coaches can come and see you at certain games, but in AAU, it's like they're coming to see you. Like it's like a whole weekend designated for that. So I think AAU is a little more important, but high school also just as important. Like the big games, like I said, in the WCAC, there's going to be a lot of college coaches. I'm assuming at some of the games. So I think they both go hand in hand. But I would say AAU just gets over the top a little bit just because of like those designated live periods.
Yeah. Dad, do you see it the same way, the relationship between AAU and high school?
Yeah, definitely. I think what we saw over the last maybe 5 years is we're seeing a shift in high school ball, that it's becoming more competitive and a little more these conferences. I mean, the WCAC is more traditional, which I like. It's more of an old school feel. You got tradition programs, but we're also seeing a push to kind of get the better players playing at better high schools and against each other all year round. And so you got conferences like EYBL Scholastic, the grind session, where these prep schools are getting, 5 ESPN kids on the team. And then you also got schools like PVI that gets 5, Power 5 kids. And Gonzaga's got a loaded class coming up this year. So they're right in line to do some damage this year. So I think they're both important. I think they just play different roles. I know I talked to a college coach that said, in AAU, they want to see the kid being free and doing, showcasing some of their skills. So it's more like a showcasing event.
Mhm.
Whereas in high school, they want to see a kid in a structured environment and
Hmm.
see how he does there. So I think they both play a role. I wouldn't put too much weight into either of them. I think they both go hand in hand, like Darius said. You got to use AAU, to get better and develop, but also showcase some of your skills. And in high school, you want to win, and that's the main thing. You got to value winning, and you got to be in a good environment where you're getting challenged.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. It's going to be challenging. I can't wait to come check you guys out. No, when we look ahead to colleges, we talked earlier that Darius already has plenty of colleges that are looking at him, and I'm sure probably before this call's over, there'll be more. When you think about the next step, and obviously we're not giving away anything confidential tonight, but what are some of the things you guys are thinking about on the college level? Is it mostly a matter of Darius is a great student, academics, but also obviously a coach that fits and teammates that fit, or has the college decision been clouded by NIL and all the opportunity? I mean, great athletes now go to college and they make a good living in college. They make more money than Chris and I make. So when what is the decision process that goes into what college you go to at the end of this road?
I would say, like you said, a lot of people really get lost in NIL. But for me, it's kind of just like finding the right fit, finding the right coach that really believes in me, is gonna let me do what I do. And I feel like it's a family. Like I have good teammates, good assistant coaches, and like the player development is not. And then obviously academics play a huge role. So, I hope I continue to keep my 4.0, even though it's going to be challenging this year. But I definitely want to go somewhere where the academics are really good. It's a prestige college. So I think both of those combined both play a really big role in it for sure.
Yeah. Dad, you see it? Chris, you see it the same way?
Yeah, I think like the man, he's like stealing my answers, but yeah, I think enough to coach high school basketball and then to coach AAU as well at a high level. I've been blessed to coach every shoe circuit before the additions of Puma and I think New Balance. I was able to coach on the Adidas side, on the Under Armour side, and on the Nike side, and I've seen a trend where parents are making decisions based on like NIL deals and money and what's going to get the most money. And sometimes you kind of lose what's most important, which is fit and relationships. Right now, we're just, building relationships with a lot of coaches, getting to see if it's a good fit for Darius. And I think as long as you're working and taking care of yourself and doing all the work behind the scenes and not getting lost in the social media, in the marketing and all those weird things that come with the territory, I think the NIL stuff will take care of itself. If you're coming in the best version of yourself on the basketball side, your value will be where it's going to be. We don't worry about that. I haven't discussed any NIL stuff with any of the college coaches we talk to. It's very much about fit. It's about academics. It's about culture, and we're just going to try to find the right fit.
Yeah, I think it's the best way, Chris. Yeah, what's interesting is back when I went to college at the university, you made a choice of what college you're going to go to with the intention of staying there the whole time. And if you tried to go somewhere else, it really was not easy. You had to sit out a year some places. Sometimes in the conference, you had to sit out 2 years. Sometimes you could lose a year of eligibility. They did not make life easy to transfer back when I was in college. Obviously, things have changed. Players are transferring all the time. If you go to watch George Mason play, you'll see they'll have their high school and two places they've already played for in college. I mean, that's not even abnormal. So, kind of like you went to Alexandria City. I'm not saying you had the intention of leaving, but college recruits make a choice about college, and it doesn't have to be a forever home. It could be a place where you like it, you think you'll play, but you may end up, let's say, with Darius, Darren Harris at Duke or whatever. Do you like the idea that you can make a college choice and it can be more temporary than it used to be, where you're picking in college for all 4 years and a relationship for all 4 years.
Yeah, for sure. I think the transfer portal has played a huge role. Even just for high school is like going to college. I feel like colleges are now looking at the transfer portal first, and then like JUCO and D2, D3, all that, before they're looking at high schoolers, which definitely makes it harder for us high schoolers to get to, a Division I college. But it's definitely played a huge role. Some kids I've talked to are like, yeah, I'm gonna go to this school for a year, try to do my thing, and then transfer out, which is obviously I didn't say anything, but it was kind of weird to me because I want to go somewhere where it's like home,
Yeah.
and not have to transfer out. But I think it's definitely played a huge role. Like some college players are thinking like before the season even starts, yeah, I'm transferring next year. So it's definitely played a huge role.
Yeah, I mean, the decisions are so tough now. There was a player that I'm sure you guys know. I believe his name is it Marcus Mack, who went to St. John's? He went to
Malik Mack.
Harvard. I'm sorry, Chris.
Malik Mack.
Malik Mack. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Malik. But he's at Harvard, not one of the top 5 institutions in the world, playing
Yeah.
for a guy I played against in high school, Tommy Amaker, and he transfers from Harvard. I mean,
Yeah.
and he goes to Georgetown. And anyone who knows what's going on, there's lots of layers to that decision.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
there's no way any of us on the outside can look at the decision and say you're transferring from Harvard. But there's so much going on. Chris, do you think it's a really complicated horizon now for these kids to determine where is home?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you guys touched on it. I'm a big fan of you guys. I watched the Nova Legends podcast.
Oh, thanks.
I think it's important to have a good village. I think you guys touched on that with all the coaches. You got to have good advisors. And no one's perfect. Sometimes you make a decision that you think is best and it doesn't work out. But I think what we're seeing now is a lot of kids getting bad advice. You'll see, these kids making these decisions and nothing to do with what, Malik Mack or anything like that. I don't know them at all. But it's very complicated. And, if you don't have someone who's very, experienced in the field or at least knows what's going on, it can get tricky. So I know for us, we're really just trying to find a home. Like I sound like a broken record, but we want to find somewhere where he can stay. I don't want to think about transferring. I want, Darius to be comfortable there. I want him to know that that's where he's going to be, for 2 years, 4 years, whatever it may be. I want him to, pending a coaching change or something like that, I want him to know that that's home and feel comfortable there. The portal trickled down to, AAU, and it's kind of this wild, wild west stuff right now, and high school and all those things. It's a really rough time right now. So, yeah, I think it can be complicated for sure.
Yeah, I think it's people are going to keep throwing things at you as
Yeah.
long as Darius is doing his thing. The options that are put in front of you are not going to dwindle. It's good, and it's
Yeah.
always it's a good thing that you guys have this village and an amazing family to guide. I want to talk a little bit about, in retrospect, the choices that you guys made. Now, we just had a great Olympic season of basketball. Darius, when I was a kid, I keep going back to the old days, but we would send our college kids over to the Olympics and we had never lost. I mean, our college kids could beat the rest of the world. But
Mhm.
now, as you guys know, I think 5 of the top 7 players in the NBA weren't even born here. They're from overseas.
Yeah.
So there is something that's going on in the development of players around the world that they've caught us. And maybe it's just the exposure. The world is big and more kids are exposed to it. But it might be the way that we're developing kids. Maybe they're putting kids in academies. They're doing more training and less games. I'm not sure. Darius and also Chris, when you think about the path of development, are there clear paths? When you look at how you got to where you are, was the path clear, or was there a lot of things that decisions you had to make that you could have made wrong, or even things maybe you wish you would have done better? Do you think that there is a clear development path to success for great basketball players?
I think the first thing it is like you gotta fall in love with the work. Like, if you don't work, you're not gonna be nothing. Like, you really gotta love the game, put in the work, put in max effort, And I think part of that is finding the right people to guide you. Like my dad said, like find that village. And I think I've been blessed to be around such great people and have access to them. Like Coach Doug Dormu, Derek Wood, all those guys that have helped me get to where I am. So I think with those guys, it made it a little easier on my part. But obviously, I mean, I still put in the work. I work out as much as I can every day, try to give it my all. But I think with the combination of everyone I work out with, just like most of like we try to work on like making reads and stuff. And I think what a lot of the overseas people are doing is like they have high IQ, which I think puts them over the top of us a little bit.
Mhm.
So I think just having high IQ, playing smart, I think if I continue to do that well, I'll be in good shape. So
Yeah, I agree with that, Derek. I love some of the things we're doing overseas, and it's really it's adding to what we do here. We're learning. This is our game, and we're learning from what the overseas players are doing, and it's only gonna make the game better, bring to the next level. How about you, Chris? Do you see as a parent who had a top player, um, are the choices that parents have to make, or is the path clear?
I think it used to be a little more clear when there was like structure. When we had, no transfer portal, when we had no real academies. The prep schools were for kids that were post grad. Now all that's changed. The landscape has changed so much. There's not a clear path. I just know what works for us, and it might not work for other people. I chose to play Darius up since 8th grade. He's played up a year. He's even this year. A lot of people were trying to get us to play his age group because he had some notoriety and he had some offers, and they thought that'd be a better thing. But I'm sitting here thinking, like, if you're playing varsity basketball, you're going to play 17s because those are the kids you're going to play against, especially on the national schedule. So he played 17s. He played up. I mean, it wasn't always pretty. You're playing 5 stars, you're playing kids signed to Kansas. So, it wasn't like it was just some, super successful all the time, all, bright lights and everything. Darius struggled sometimes, and we're okay with that. I think sometimes parents try to avoid adversity and they hate to see their kids struggle. And I think that's what makes kids better. So, he figured it out and he had a great summer. He was able to adjust to that. But yeah, there's no clear path, man. I mean, you can see a kid who, could take a completely different path and it can work out. For us, we just always try to keep development at the forefront. Like, the hard work never changes, the working out never changes, and just always keeping development in mind when we're making decisions. And that's worked for us.
Now, when you say playing up as opposed to playing with your age group, if you play with your age group, it's easier for scouts to see that you're dominant with 2026s. So, and that's the benefit for playing with your age. When you play up, they may not know that Darius is playing with kids that are a year older. Is that kind of like what the trade-off is?
Sometimes too.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So a lot of
So
folks.
17U, the way AAU is structured now, so 17U is like 18, 19.
Mhm.
You do have some 17-year-olds in there, but you do have also unsigned seniors. So you will have some 18 and 19-year-olds. I'd say the average age is about 18 to 17U. And 16U, I'd say the average age is about 17, 16 and a half. And 15U, it's about 15 and a half, 16. So, it's based on grade. You're supposed to be a freshman going into your sophomore year
Okay.
at 15U, and 16U is supposed to be sophomore going into your junior year, and 17U is for juniors and seniors. So, yeah.
Now, guys, is one-on-one training, is that indispensable in this day and age? You got to have a one-on-one trainer, or can a player play at a top level and not have a one-on-one trainer?
So we're old school. I'm very much a fan of playing. I think in training obviously you got to work on moves and you got to get massive reps up, but those are things I think you can do on your own as well. But I like competitive environments. Some of the trainers that Darius works with, they do a lot of one-on-one, full court, 2-on-2, 3-on-3.
Mhm.
I'm a big fan of that, especially when you're playing against really good kids. There's no way to apply the stuff you're learning without playing. So he goes out and seeks open gyms. We find places to play. He plays with adults. He played in the Goodman League. We played outdoors at Berry Farms. We played up at Watts. We play in adult leagues all over the city, DC, Southeast, South, Northwest, Maryland. It doesn't matter. I think you got to play in all types of environments to get better. But one-on-one training kind of comes with the territory, but I don't think you can do it solely on that. You got to play, and that's big.
So Darius, a lot of the kids that you're playing against, your counterparts, are they doing a lot of work with the trainer, or do you agree with your father? It should be more of a competitive environment.
Me personally, I like hooping, like just getting up and down, playing 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3. Obviously, like I'll get in the gym with a trainer. I try to do it at least a couple times a week, work on different stuff, get a lot of reps up, shooting wise. But I think a lot of kids like nowadays, they just want to train. And I mean, I think training is fun sometimes, but where I really have the most fun is just hooping. Like I said, playing 1-on-1, 2-on-2, playing live. That's what I look forward to most. So I think some people are getting lost in like a bunch of training, but I think there is still some kids that I know that just want to hoop and get better. So
Yeah, it's also expensive.
Yeah.
What, guys, what are some of the kids? What are some of the things kids get wrong? Like some of the kids that haven't developed, and it might be easier for Chris to give his opinion as well because he's seen things that parents do wrong. And of course, Darius is here from the kids' point of view. But what are some of the things that the players are doing wrong that's hurting their development? When you look around, do you see people not um, reaching their goals because they have the wrong approach? Is that common, or are most people on the right path? It's just the cream is rising to the top.
Um, from what I've seen, some of the mistakes people make are comparison. They compare their kids to other kids and they say things like, well, why isn't my kid getting this? And why isn't my kid getting that? Instead of just working. Also just making decisions based on like names. Like, we got lucky enough to be on the Adidas circuit, which was a sponsored team. But had we not, we would have been independent playing in some of the same tournaments as the public school teams that some of the coaches on your podcast coach.
Mhm.
We were with them up until 8th grade. There's nothing wrong with that. Kids go D1 from that. But I think sometimes you're getting to a point where kids would rather play on a shoe team and sit the bench and take pictures of the sponsored shoes that they're getting, as opposed to maybe playing on a hoop group team or a local team and being the man there. And there's nothing wrong with that as long as you got good development. So, yeah, I think sometimes the comparison game can get people in trouble and make a kid lose interest, and just worrying about what other people are doing instead of just keeping the work at the forefront.
That's great advice. How about you, Darius? Do you see a lot of your counterparts? And I know you probably don't give a lot of unsolicited advice, but do you see a lot of people making mistakes that are holding them back?
yeah, like similar to what my dad said, I would just say like a lot of kids like they don't really work. Like they want the results, but they don't put in the work to like get the results they want. So they're kind of like, oh, I want this, I want that, but then at the same time they're working out 2 times a week, and not doing stuff behind the scenes. So I think the main thing they're doing wrong is just not putting in like the amount of work it takes. So
Yeah. Well, look, guys, I kept you much longer than I wanted to. You guys have so much information. Just a joy to talk to. When I saw the podcast, we didn't talk much about your mother and your siblings. You got Chris. You just have a beautiful family, man. Blessed. I would like, and I want to thank you guys for doing this. I would want to ask you guys as a last question, and I hope you guys will come back and join me on your journey like Darren did, and I know you're going to have a great time with the De La Vila guys on the documentary. But if you had to pick another sport in which you could completely immerse yourself in, and I saw you on the soccer documentary the other day. Well, what sport would that have been? What other sport do you think you could have really just immerse yourself in and
Here
try to
we
get to the
go.
next level?
I would say when I was younger, I would definitely want to play football. I was really good at baseball. So I would either say football or baseball. Honestly, before basketball, before I really took basketball serious, baseball was like the basketball of my world now. Like I was basically playing AAU baseball, playing with like some of the top kids in the area that I was in, and this was in California. So I really enjoyed baseball. I was a shortstop myself, and I thought I was pretty good. So I think baseball or football for sure. I was a wide receiver in football. So
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'll speak for your dad and say that we're glad you didn't play football. No, I think most fathers these days, when you watch your son get beat up out there, there's nothing fun about that. Chris,
Yeah,
what do you think? If you had to pick a sport for Darius to immerse himself in, what do you think other than basketball would have been his best bet?
Unfortunately, I think it probably was football.
Mhm.
Um, I know a lot of people were surprised that Darius is breaking the steal record this year at TC. Broke
Wow.
the single season steal record. He had really good hands, so he was a really good receiver. He actually played with Justin, Chris, and a couple kids from West Potomac. They played football in 6th grade, 7th grade, and I think up until 8th grade. So they had a nice little team, and he was a good receiver. So I think it probably was football. He's a big football fan now. We watch football all day. He watches college and NFL. So
Yeah.
football will probably be the sport.
Yeah. That's the biggest difference between athletes when I played and now is they played other sports. Like for example, Hubert.
Yeah.
Hubert's 5 years younger than me, but Hubert was first team All State wide receiver. Obviously, first team All State in basketball. Also, he was all district in tennis,
Mm.
and he was a great soccer player. I mean, and I'm interviewing Ray Crittenden coming up. I don't you guys might not know Ray. He was a legend here, basketball, football, soccer. Uh, that was the beauty of sports of the old days.
Yeah.
You play football. If you lose to them in football, you get them back in basketball season. If you lose to them in basketball, you get them back in baseball season. That's the way it was when I was young, and those days are behind us. I think we've decided that we're going to focus on one, maybe two sports. But
Hmm.
it's so hard to play basketball and another sport at a high level.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a dream. So look, guys, I know it's a school night, and I just want to thank you guys again. Chris and I have been talking about this for a long time. I was waiting patiently, because I knew you guys had a lot on your plate, and I almost waited to after the documentary came out. I'm like, I should talk to these guys now, though. But I'm really glad you came on here. I think you guys gave us a lot of material for parents and players to think about, but not only that, for fans of the game. Darius, you touched a lot of people from playing. We're so proud and thankful that guys like you and Jordan decide to play in the public school culture. I spent a lot of time promoting the game, and we love to see you out here playing with public school guys. You raised the level when you play in public school, but we also know you're ready for the next level, and we will definitely support you at O'Connell unless you're playing Hayfield or one of the public school teams. So, but anyway, guys, I just want to thank you for doing this. I wish you the best of luck, and hopefully we can talk again soon.
Yeah.
definitely, definitely. I appreciate you having us on here for sure.
Yeah, it was great.
Is Julian, and I'm glad you're putting this information out for parents and students, and keep doing your thing, man. We're big fans, and we've been big fans before this was even an idea. And yeah, you do amazing work, man.
Oh, I
It's really
appreciate it,
good.
Chris. Yeah, well, you obviously do great work as well over there, and keep doing what you're doing, raising a beautiful family and great kids, and also with your coaching and stuff as well. So, but again, guys, it's been great. Let's keep in touch, and I can't wait to see you guys this winter.
All
Definitely.
right.
All right, guys, take care now.
All right. See ya.
All right, now, bye bye.